Good morning, y'all. I am going to be real with you this morning in a way that I do not always get to be, because I think the nature of this title deserves a certain kind of directness that formal meteorological language sometimes gets in the way of. So I am going to say this the way I would say it to a friend sitting across from me at a kitchen table who had not been paying attention to the weather all week and needed me to cut through everything and just tell them the truth. What is coming next week is no joke. Not in the colloquial, overused, throw it in a headline sense of that phrase. In the actual, literal, sit down and take this seriously sense of that phrase, the atmospheric pattern that is developing right now, and that is going to be delivering its worst impacts across the south central and central United States through most of next week, is the kind of setup that has been keeping the meteorology community in active, attentive, sustained conversation for the past several days. Not because we are uncertain about whether it is going to be dangerous, but because we are uncertain about just how dangerous it is going to get. And when experienced forecasters are uncertain on the upper end of the severity range, rather than on the lower end, y'all, that is the moment when the communities in the path of something need to stop treating it as background noise and start treating it as the most important piece of information they are going to receive this week. Let me start by grounding this in the facts, because I am never going to come to you with language like no joke without the data to back it up. The Storm Prediction Center has issued extended range severe weather outlooks for 4 consecutive days. Saturday, April 11th through Tuesday, April 14th. A level of advanced confidence that people who study severe weather outlooks for a living describe as something you see only a couple of times per year, if that. 4 consecutive days. Not 4 separate individual storm days where the pattern happened to be active for a while and then reset. 4 days where the large-scale atmospheric configuration is so well organized, so consistently represented across the major modeling systems, and so clearly favorable for repeated severe weather development that the federal forecasters in Norman felt confident enough to flag all 4 days simultaneously from the day 4 through day 7 range. That is a big deal. Extended range outlooks at that distance are not issued casually. The SPC's institutional practice is to wait until they have genuine confidence before they put an area on any extended range map, because they understand that false alarms erode public trust, and that trust is the single most valuable thing a warning system possesses. When they extend that trust to flag 4 consecutive days, you owe it to yourself and to the people you love to take it at full face value. And it does not stop at 4 days. Because while the week 1 system, the Saturday through Tuesday stretch, is going to be doing its work across the southern plains, Oklahoma, Kansas, and the Midwest, the Climate Prediction Center is already flagging what comes immediately after it. Their probabilistic hazards. Outlook for the week 2 period, Thursday through Saturday, April 16th through 18th, is carrying a slight risk of heavy precipitation for portions of the southern and central plains, the Mississippi Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and the Ohio Valley. And the reason for that week 2 risk is something that the CPC described in specific, clear language in their latest discussion. They are projecting a second round of Lee cyclogenesis over the central plains at the outset of week 2, following the initial system from week 1, a second surface low, developing in the same region, with a slower eastward progression, meaning it is going to sit and spin over the central United States longer than the first system did, wringing more moisture out of the Gulf and delivering more sustained precipitation across the region. The CPC also flagged a slight risk of high winds for much of the Great Plains, Rocky Mountains, Great Basin, and Desert Southwest from Thursday through Monday, a 5-day wind hazard window. They specifically noted that, given the extremely dry winter experienced over the West, such winds present a potential wildfire hazard. So we are looking at this. Week 1 delivers 4 consecutive days of organized severe weather across the southern plains and Midwest. Week 2 delivers a second, slower-moving system that compounds the rainfall, raises the wind hazard across the west, and hits a region that is already going to be soaked from the first round. No joke. That is not hyperbole. That is a 2-week atmospheric sequence that is being flagged from multiple independent federal forecast centers at the same time. But I want to tell you about the third reason, the one that sits underneath. The storm systems themselves, and that makes both of them more dangerous than either one would be on its own, because I think it is the one that is most underappreciated in the current conversation about this pattern. And that reason is the baseline condition of the ground across the affected region right now, the Ohio Valley, the upper Mississippi Valley, the Great Lakes region. These areas have been dealing with flooding that has nothing to do with next week's system. The NWS office in northern Indiana documented that rainfall from March 31st through April 4th totaled an impressive 3 to 6 inches across their area, sending rivers rapidly toward flood stage. The Great Lakes region has reported precipitation accumulations exceeding 2 inches in most locations over just the past week, on top of an already wet spring that began with the active March pattern. The CPC's probabilistic hazards outlook specifically notes that abundant snowpack over portions of northern Michigan and the Upper Peninsula is beginning to melt, and that this has saturated soils and already led to widespread river flooding across Michigan and Wisconsin, and that any additional water in the river systems will not be easily accommodated. That is federal forecaster language for the rivers are already full and we have nowhere to put more water. And what is coming next week is a lot more water. Fox Weather is flagging localized rainfall totals of 2 to 3 inches over several days from Texas through Oklahoma and Arkansas, with the possibility of local totals of up to 5 to 6 inches in the heaviest training corridors, on ground that is already saturated across broad portions of the Midwest, into river systems that the CPC has explicitly said cannot accommodate additional input. The flooding threat from this 2-week sequence is not a secondary concern. It is equal in scale to the tornado and hail threat. It just does not announce itself as dramatically, and it affects a broader geographic footprint than any individual tornado track. Let me now talk specifically about the severe weather threat for week 1, in a level of detail that I think helps everyone in the affected areas understand not just that something bad is coming, but exactly what kind of bad, and exactly when the worst of it is likely to arrive. Saturday is the opening act of this sequence, and even as the opening act, it needs to be taken seriously. West Texas, the Texas Panhandle, eastern New Mexico, these communities are looking at scattered severe thunderstorm development Saturday afternoon in an environment with CAPE values around 1,000 to 1,500 joules per kilogram and deep layer shear running in the 30 to 40 knot range. The primary threats Saturday are large hail and damaging wind gusts. Not the peak of the sequence, but genuinely dangerous for anyone caught outside during the afternoon storm development. Sunday escalates. The moisture has had 24 more hours to build across Texas and Oklahoma. The upper level energy is better positioned, and the mid-level flow is strengthening. The Fox Forecast Center is tracking a level 2 out of 5 severe threat from central and southern Texas through Oklahoma and into Kansas for Sunday, with Oklahoma City, Wichita, Dallas, and San Angelo all sitting inside that risk zone. The NWS Fort Worth office has already explicitly flagged Sunday as the primary severe risk day for the Dallas-Fort Worth area this weekend, noting that if morning clouds and rain clear, an increased tornado threat would develop in the afternoon. Tornadoes on Sunday in Dallas-Fort Worth. Not a theoretical possibility, Ostar. The NWS is writing it directly into their forecast discussion. Monday expands the scale of this threat dramatically. On Monday, the storm system accelerates northward, pushing the severe weather risk from the southern plains all the way into the upper Midwest. Fox Weather's coverage of this describes a severe weather corridor spanning more than 1,000 miles, covering over a dozen states from Midland, Texas, to central Iowa. 1,000 miles, 12 plus states. Dallas, Oklahoma City, and Kansas City, all sitting inside that risk zone on the same day. That is not a regional event anymore. That is a continental severe weather footprint. The primary threats on Monday are large hail, widespread damaging wind gusts, and an expanding tornado threat, as the instability deepens northward into the Corn Belt. Communities in Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri that have been watching the Texas and Oklahoma storms from a comfortable distance are going to find themselves directly under the gun on Monday evening and overnight. And then there is Tuesday. Y'all, I have talked about Tuesday in multiple recent forecasts, and I am going to keep talking about it because every model run that comes in sharpens and intensifies the signal for Tuesday rather than backing it off. The SPC's Day 4-8 outlook describes Tuesday as a day where an upper-level trough moves into the southern Rockies with an associated mid-level jet streak ejecting northeastward across the southern high plains. The same jet streak mechanism that produces the most explosive, rapid supercell development of any dynamic forcing pattern in the severe weather toolkit. Strong deep layer shear is forecast over the southern and central plains for Tuesday afternoon and evening. Supercells with large hail, wind damage, and tornadoes are expected. And the SPC uses language that I do not hear in medium-range discussions very often. An upgrade will be possible across parts of the threat area once confidence increases on the timing of the ejecting trough. An upgrade from the already substantial forecast that currently exists for Tuesday. The Fox Forecast Center independently describes Tuesday as a day where the setup could bring an even greater risk of severe weather to a broader population than Monday, with threats of hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes in the afternoon and evening. When the SPC and the independent forecasting community are both pointing at the same day, using the same escalatory language while the models are converging rather than diverging on that day's severity, that is the day you build your entire week around. That is the day your shelter plan has to be finalized. That is the day y'all call needs to be set up and active, because Tuesday night's squall line push is going to bring QLCS tornado and wind hazards into communities that are asleep, And a direct phone call to your number when a tornado warning covers your GPS location is the only thing that cuts through sleep mode at 1 in the morning, with the urgency this event demands. I want to spend some time specifically addressing the people in this audience who live in communities that are used to being in the path of severe weather, in central Oklahoma, in south central Kansas, in North Texas, and northwestern Arkansas, because I think experienced severe weather communities sometimes fall into a trap that I need to flag directly. The trap is familiarity. When you have been in tornado watches and tornado warnings before, when you have had supercells pass close enough that you saw them from your front porch, when your shelter plan has been activated before and you made it through fine, that familiarity is genuinely valuable. You know what to do, you know how to respond, you're not starting from zero, but familiarity can also create a subtle and dangerous complacency when a forecast like this one arrives. The implicit logic of familiarity is, I have been through this before and I was fine. But the logic of every severe weather forecast is that whether you are fine depends not on your past experience, but on what the atmosphere is doing on that particular day. And on that particular day, the conditions are either favorable or they are not. The CAPE values, the helicity, the shear, the storm mode, those ingredients do not care how many times you have been through a tornado watch. They produce what the physics dictates every single time. Next week's physics are dictating something that deserves your full, undiminished, undistracted attention. I need you to bring the same level of engagement to this event that you would bring to your first one. Let me also speak directly to the communities that are not traditional severe weather hotspots, but that are going to be inside Monday and Tuesday's extended threat corridor. Communities in Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Missouri. You are not bystanders to a Texas-Oklahoma problem next week. You are in the path of a severe weather sequence that is going to reach your latitude by Monday afternoon, and that is going to still be delivering tornado and hail potential into your area on Tuesday. Know where your shelter is. If you are in a mobile home, you need a plan to get to a sturdy structure. A mobile home is not adequate shelter from a significant tornado, and next week's environment has the potential to produce significant tornadoes. If your workplace, your school, your church does not have a clearly posted shelter plan, next week is the week to ask about it. These are not conversations you want to be having in the moment a tornado warning is issued. They need to happen before the week begins. And now let me address the flooding risk one final time, because I think it deserves a standalone closing emphasis that matches the tornado and hail discussions in urgency. When the CPC says additional water will not be easily accommodated in Michigan and Wisconsin, when the NWS documents 3 to 6 inch rainfall totals from just the past 2 weeks across the Ohio Valley, when the Week 2 system is projected to be slower moving and to deposit additional heavy rain on top of all of that, the cumulative flood potential from next week into the week after is going to be one of the most significant and widespread hazards this spring has produced anywhere in the country. The rivers that are elevated right now across the Midwest and Ohio Valley are going to keep rising, not because of a single event, but because of what the pattern is delivering week over week. If you live near any significant waterway, the Missouri River, the Arkansas River, the Ohio River, the Upper Mississippi, any of their tributaries, please be watching river stage forecasts from your local NWS office every single day next week. The acute flash flood threat during each storm event is one thing. The sustained, building multi-week river flooding threat that is developing alongside the severe weather pattern is another, and it is going to outlast the individual storm days by days to weeks. Y'all, let me close this forecast the way the topic demands, with the same directness I opened it with. What is coming next week is no joke. 4 consecutive days of SPC flagged severe weather potential, covering the Week 1 period. A second system developing in Week 2, with a slower eastward track and sustained wind and precipitation hazards across a broader region, all of it landing on top of soil that is already saturated and rivers that are already elevated from the most active March and early April in years. The tornado threat is real, and it has upgrade potential. The hail threat is going to be significant and widespread. The flooding threat is going to be sustained and compounding. And the overnight windows within this sequence, particularly Tuesday night into Wednesday morning across the Mid-South corridor, are the windows where people die who did not have to. Please set up y'all call before Saturday. Link is in the description of this video. $14.95 for a full year of direct phone call protection when a tornado warning covers your exact GPS location. Please share this video today. Text it directly to your family in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Arkansas, Tennessee. Please walk to your shelter today and make sure it is ready for a week of potential use, not just a single afternoon. Please charge every device in your house and have a backup battery ready. And please watch the SPC outlooks every morning next week, because this forecast is going to keep escalating right up to each event day, and you need to see each update as it comes. I am going to be live through every major active day of next week's sequence, starting Saturday, and I am not signing off until every warning is done and every community is on the other side. Subscribe to this channel, hit the bell, and I will see you all in the live stream.